Hello everyone, this is Bryant with SFFT Source, your premier unofficial guide to Six Flags Fiesta Texas. And it's actually time for us to construct another nano coaster from CoasterDynamix. We're actually going to do Woman Golden Lasso Coaster next. And as you can see, here is the box. Of course, you have your Wonder Woman logo, and then it just kind of shows you the ride with some random people as we go. Of course, you have the CoasterDynamix Nanocoaster logo, and then on the back you actually have a picture of what this will look like when it's finished, and just kind of some other information there, and you can kind of see the retail price on that. So if you want to pick up one of these, you have to do it at the park. They are available at the Los Festivales gift shop near the front gate, which is kind of on the left hand side when you come in. And you can also pick these up at the Wonder Woman gift shop, which is at the exit of Wonder Woman. Whenever you're kind of looking at your on-ride photos, they sell those in there. So without any further ado, let's jump right in and build this thing. Alright folks, one thing that you kind of always want to have handy is a set of nail clippers. This is going to be the easiest way to extract the metal pieces out of their kind of metal sheet that they come in. You don't have to have these, but you might be pulling your hair out by the end of this if you don't. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up, and right off the bat we have basically our track pieces, which you can see right here. So essentially we're going to have to cut all of these out, and then we're going to have to mold them onto a base. So you have these, it's kind of bent, but that's okay. Definitely kind of pay attention when you're picking these up at the park. These things just kind of get beat up. The park doesn't really keep track of them very well. There's empty boxes, missing pieces. Just make sure you have all the pieces before you buy one of these, because they are, you know, kind of a steeper price. So we have our metal sheet. This is the base that the ride will sit on. It has a protective covering over it that we'll take off here pretty soon. And should have instructions in here. These are pretty critical, but they are very IKEA. So here's your set of instructions. It kind of shows you all of the steps, kind of how you attach these, nothing on the back. And sometimes these say make sure to use nail clippers. This one does not. So we are going to instill that wisdom in you. So the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to take the protective covering off of this, because you want to take this off before you actually start installing the pieces on it. Alright, now we have all of this off of here, and one more piece. Let me get that. So it's very tricky because, as you can see, there's lots of just little crevices and stuff in this. Kind of one of the more involved ones to actually get out. So these pick up fingerprints like crazy, so I'm actually going to go grab a cloth real quick, wipe this down, and then what we'll do is we will actually start cutting pieces out of this sheet. Alright, we have our base piece wiped off pretty well. I mean, it's gonna still grab stuff, so just keep that in mind. And what we're gonna do now is go ahead and pull our metal sheet out of the bag. And I was kind of talking about this earlier, where if you have the nail clippers, all of these kind of little tiny points that hold this all together, you can actually snip those out. And it's a lot cleaner and easier to do than other methods. So we'll go ahead and do that. And man, this one's looking a little tricky. So what I like to do is actually get all of the pieces out of here, lay them all out, then get on the instructions and go from there. So let's go ahead and get all of these cut out real quick. And one thing that I've kind of mentioned in our other videos, once you cut these out, sometimes you have these little metal shards here. I like to make sure to cut these off too before I actually install this, just so it looks a little bit cleaner. Alright, as you can see, we have all of the pieces cut out. Now we've got to kind of bend them around, shape them so that they can go into the base here. One thing that I like to do, I don't know if this shows up on camera, but there's all these little metal shards. So for me, it's really important to just kind of get all of this cleaned up before we move on to the next step. I'm going to go grab another towel real quick, wipe this down, get this all cleaned up, then we'll actually install all the pieces. Alright, we got a clean workstation, we've got our base laid out. Now, I could imagine this getting a little bit tricky because as you can see, these are all little pieces. If you've been on Woman Golden Lasso Coaster, you know it's very compact, very tight. So this will be interesting. It's always good to orient your base how you see it on the instructions. So we've gone ahead and already done that with our base. So first up, we have essentially the second kind of turn and drop of the ride. So we'll go ahead and install that right now. Alright, we have our first piece installed, pretty painless. As you can see, you just kind of got to bend the thing around, make it work. You got to be careful, you don't want to break this. They're pretty durable, but you know, once you start bending metal pieces, they don't really like to go back to how they were. So pretty easy first piece, we'll keep on moving. Oh, one other thing I wanted to point out is kind of how these latch on at the bottom. You can kind of see they're just tabs, and once you push the metal, these tabs come down. They're straight, and you just bend them to hold the piece to the base. So very simple. You always want to kind of make sure that you're not covering up another hole when you're bending these over. It doesn't look like we're doing that, but you can see there's lots of little holes, so you got to be careful. Alright, so our second piece, which is basically the end of the ride into the final brake run, the station, you can see we had to do a lot of bending there. That one was definitely more tricky. So it's even in a situation where it doesn't really want to sit down on the base completely because we had to bend it so hard. But we'll just kind of tighten the tabs. Helps a little bit. It's definitely tough to kind of get some of these pieces to go where you want them to. Let's go ahead and move on to the next piece. And we've got that next piece installed, and kind of just like the last one, tons of bending involved. So get ready on your bending. And the other unfortunate thing that kind of happens with these is I already did it over here. The base gets kind of scratched up. So maybe y'all are a little bit more savvy with your hands than I am, but unfortunately that's just part of the process for me. This just gets scratched up, but it's not super noticeable. You know, most people are kind of quickly walking by these. You're really the only one that sees it. So we'll keep moving on. And now we have this piece installed. So far this has been relatively painless. This is 6th or 7th one of these I've built, so for me anyways, it does get easier the more I build. And we're actually down to our last 3 track pieces, so we're getting there. It's not taking too long. Alright, we have that next piece installed, and in my opinion, it's definitely a really awkward transition right here, so you got to kind of be careful. You got to really get that bent in, but so far this is a lot less painless than I thought it would be, so let's get these last 2 pieces installed. have the lift hill and the final, or the first drop. So saved the first for last on the model. Alright, that last piece is in. Definitely probably the trickiest one, and even this kind of dip after the lift hill isn't quite how it should be. And I definitely kind of wish there was more supports along here. Alright, now we got to put in the station. So you basically just bend this thing down and drop it right in. And then the final piece we have is the Wonder Woman emblem, which it's just kind of a nameplate that goes onto the base. Alright, there we have the Wonder Woman Golden Lasso Coaster, CoasterDynamix Nanocoaster. Say that 3 times fast. If y'all have any questions about how to construct this or any of the CoasterDynamix Nanocoasters, please feel free to ask in the comments below. We have a couple other videos where we put together New Texas Giant and Titan, and make sure you check those out if you're planning on buying those. We're just trying to kind of help you out. And yeah, this one was pretty painless. So I'm not sure if the Texas parks are going to end up with any more of these, but it would definitely be welcome to get some more of these. So we'll just have to keep a lookout and see if that happens.
Thank you.